Start.
My name is Bryce Denzine. Today's date is April 11th, 2022. The time is 10:25. This interview is being virtually conducted and recorded. I am interviewing Jeff Ellenbecker, who was born on March 11th, 1976 in Pewaukee and served in the era 1997 to 1999. Jeff Ellenbecker was a private first class in the branch of the Army and served as a mechanized infantry. This interview is sponsored by the Bell Tower Memorial.
You want me to correct you? It was March 16th.
Did I say 19th?
11th.
All right. So my first question to begin this off is, what were you doing before you entered the service?
I guess the best question is, what wasn't I doing? I was young, so I was doing landscaping jobs, truck driving, just trying to find myself and where I fit in. I wasn't really a college kind of a guy, even though I did 2 years at Water. College school just didn't fit me. So while kind of being a young kid and a punk goofing around, I found a recruiter for the military, and that's what was better than what I was doing now. So that's why I went in.
And I'm curious, did you have an original plan before joining the Army? Like, was there any goals you wanted to achieve before any military aspirations that you had?
Not really. I know my dad was a jeweler. My mom was still building her company as being a financial investment firm. And I really didn't have any interest to work with them at all. So I was just finding myself. But I think along the line, it was kind of business. I know I wanted to own my own business. Just didn't know what type yet.
Okay, awesome. And so you just said you decided to join the service kind of as a revamp because you wanted to get out of like the college experience and then pursue that forward?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'm curious, tell me about like your early weeks of training and just how you adapted to the military lifestyle.
Sure. So I went to basic training in Georgia, Fort Benning. And, basic is kind of what they say. You go in there, you do a lot of PT, they kick your butt. And what they want to do is they kind of want to break your status quo down a little bit and then be able to build you up with listening, paying attention to details, working hard, and just kind of being a better person. The PT was probably the hardest for me. I wasn't the best at jogging and running, but out in the field, doing the fire, live fire training, day and night. Night was the best, just because you had all the tracer rounds and everything. That was pretty cool. But to me, it was enjoyable. Not many people liked basic. When I was growing up, both my parents worked hard, so I kind of did my own thing. So it was nice to finally have structure.
That's awesome. And then, so you mentioned you had your basic training at Fort Benning, and then where did you go after that to serve?
After that, I went to Fort Carson, Colorado. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I went to Fort Carson, Colorado, and that's pretty much where I kind of adapted and adopted the military life of waking up in the morning and doing PT, going to breakfast, and then you have your formation. I think it was at like 9 a.m. And then from there, you kind of got your daily job. If you were preparing to go into the field, if you were doing MAP training, if you were doing some community service. And that's where, after a few months, you kind of get into a groove and you realize this is your life and do the best that you can.
So what tended to be like the common day activities following like PT in the morning and breakfast and all that stuff? Like what were the common day jobs that like someone like you would do?
Well, if you would drive the Bradleys, because I was mechanized infantry, you would go to the motor pool and you would clean the Bradleys. You'd make sure that the tracks were good, check the oil, and do any maintenance that's needed, or if you worked on, or it might be Humvees if you're a Humvee driver. For infantry, it was a lot of training and map reading and compass reading and cleaning your rifle, and then helping other organizations out. Sometimes a VFW would have garbage cleaning on the side of the road, so we would go and assist them with that.
Okay, yeah. And then I'm curious, what were some pros and cons at where you were based? Just how like base life was, things like that.
I wasn't the best in garrison. I was better in the field, so I got bored pretty quick. That was probably the biggest con. When cleaning, after we got in from the field, you do a lot of cleaning, rifles, gear. That I didn't mind, but kind of sitting back and being idle, I guess, was the biggest con for me. The pro was always field work. You'd gear up a month ahead of time, and you would be loading rounds, getting your firearm, your gear, and everything in working order. You go to the ranges and you would test fire everything, and then basically when you go to the field, it's like living. It's like camping, except military style, and that was the biggest pro for me. But back in garrison, that's where you form all the relationships with your friends, because you're going out, you're hanging out with them. You're if it's going to the bar and drinking and hanging out. I mean, that's where I formed all my relationships. I didn't go overseas, so for me, garrison was all my relationship forming.
So following like those relationships too, could you tell me a little bit about like the camaraderie aspect in the military and just kind of how it changed you and shaped you the way you are now, and just how it helped you perceive things differently in life?
Sure. Well, my fellow Army guys, they're all from different states, so I didn't do much traveling. So you get to hear how they talk differently. So that was kind of cool to be able to hear everyone's different accents, and then basically hearing about their home life, what they did, if they went fishing or, canoeing or boating, kind of learn what their family was like. I was still young. So when I was kind of in a little bubble, and I didn't realize that the world is where our country is as big as it is until I started hearing what their experiences were.
And I'm curious, how has that camaraderie followed up until now? Like, how has it transpired to current events at all? And like, do you still have camaraderie still with people that you were in the service with?
A good question. When I first got out, I lived in Las Vegas with one of my Army buddies and his family, and that lasted for about two or 3 years until I moved back home. But he was really the only friend that I really stayed close with. And then as I got a little bit older, then you have Facebook and Instagram. So now that kind of reconnected me a lot to my other military buddies. And that was nice. One invited me to his wedding in Michigan. And basically just being able to tell stories and kind of live the past is nice. And one thing with me being ex-military is I can go into a VFW and feel welcomed and feel like I'm at home. So the camaraderie is nice because it kind of follows me with people, other veterans that I might not even know, but I still have that with them.
So would you say with the camaraderie, my next question would have been, when serving, what was most important to you? Would you say like just your brothers and sisters in the military, would that be up there on that list too?
It would be. It was very important for me to get to know them, because you have to be able to trust them. You're going to have to know that they're going to be on your left and your right, and basically to have your back when it's needed. Even though I did mostly training, but a lot of it was live fire exercises, and you wanted to make sure that you could trust them and have the relationship with them, that they're not going to, shoot you in the back by accident.
Yeah. So, and then following that as well, so obviously that was an important piece, and then like live fire you really enjoyed. So what was your least favorite part about the military and just your overall experience?
Probably the PT. I wasn't the best morning person, so when you wake up immediately, you're going into push-ups and sit-ups and running. But that was probably it. Everything else I enjoyed. I enjoyed the people. I mean, even if the sergeants were yelling at me or whatnot, that really didn't get under my skin. Basic training is basically, that's where they're yelling and screaming. Once you get to your post, it's more, they talk to you more as an individual and a soldier with a lot more respect.
And I'm curious, what kind of team building and also individual exercises do they make you do to be able to lift you up and also get that camaraderie formed as well?
So that would be training. During training, they would mix up a lot of our squads. And what they were trying to show is we train this particular way. So if you do go somewhere else, everything is continued and you're still comfortable. So when you would have people that you didn't have a relationship with, or you didn't like, or you didn't want to deal with, a lot of times they would put you in a squad together. So then you can kind of work out the differences, and eventually you learn to trust them. And I know that in the middle of the night when we were providing security, someone could walk up to me, I wouldn't even see their face, but I would know them so well, I would know their silhouette, what it would look like.
So I'm curious, were there any instances as well where like that trustworthy relationship just didn't work out entirely? Was there any instance like that, or did it all in the end kind of come together?
All in the end, it kind of worked together. I mean, there were people that I didn't go out to lunch with or drinks with, but when you're training with them, there might be a little bit of firm talking. But for the most part, we were here to do our job, and we know that if we didn't, we would get in trouble. Or worst case, a bunch of push-ups.
So looking back at all your military experience, did you have any sense of regret after like following the military?
No, not at all. I suppose in the beginning, I wish I had a little bit more information so I would know what, if I knew I would have a different job, possibly maybe I would not have went into the infantry. I kind of wish, as a civilian, and you asked this question earlier, did you have any type of a path that you wanted to do career-wise? I wish I had one mapped out when I was going to the Army. I think that would have made a big difference.
So if you weren't mechanized infantry in the Army, what would you have rather done?
So, I mean, you can always dream, if it was a helicopter pilot or, sniper training. But just kind of I wish I had an end goal. Now, I was medically discharged, so even if I did have that, I probably still wouldn't have made that career path, but it would have been nice knowing that I had somewhere to go.
For sure. And then you mentioned you were medically discharged. Would you serve again, like if you were given the chance? Like, would you have extended your term longer?
I would have. My next post was going to Korea, and what I really wanted to do was go overseas. I went to Fort Carson first. I wish right out of that basic training I went overseas.
So did you have a choice to do that, or is it kind of just where they need you go?
You have a wish list, and it was kind of funny. Everyone that listed where they wanted to go in the States, they all went overseas, and almost everyone who listed overseas went in the States. So it's kind of funny how that worked out.
Yeah, but ironic. So what do you consider to be your most important contribution in your service?
During training, that's where I excelled at. So I was able to help a lot of the weaker soldiers kind of grow and be stronger, be able to help them, if it's with shooting, if it's with marching. We did a lot of marching. So sometimes, I would fall back and motivate them. But I suppose being a better soldier and always striving to do better. At MTC in California, I think there's like 4 or 5 posts that go there. I actually ended up being the national rotational hero, which was nice. And that just kind of validated all my hard work and training. And our platoon did very well. And I think that was because a lot of the help that I gave them during our training back in our post.
Very cool. Very cool. And then just also coming out of the military, what are some of the like bigger life lessons you learned from your military service too?
Pay attention to details. That's one of the biggest things. And listen. When people are talking to you, just listen. And then when you have something to say, you sound better to them because they know that you listened. A lot of times when people are talking, they kind of they're automatically thinking what they want to say, and if it's interrupting or whatnot. But listen is the biggest thing. In my experience, when you're out here, being a civilian, people want to hire you. They want to hire you because you're trainable. You do listen and you work hard and you have a good work ethic. So if you can start that in your military career, not only will military life be easier, transitioning will be a lot easier as well.
That actually plays perfectly into my next question. So what was it like to transition to civilian life after the military?
I was only in, just under 3 years. So transitioning was pretty easy for me. I had a lot of friends that owned their own businesses. So again, I was still bouncing job to job, trying to find myself, but transitioning from doing PT and not doing PT, that was pretty easy every morning. But when I found a job or I was applying, I would always put on their veteran. And that made it a lot easier for me because people wanted me to work for them. And with the military life, the structure, making your bed, yes, sir, ma'am, paying attention to details, that transferred pretty easy as well. And it also made me stand out from a lot of other people. So if I was in an interview and someone asked me a question and I said yes instead of yeah, I mean, that made a big difference.
Okay. Yeah, it's completely understandable. And then I think also, I'm going to guess like respect was kind of ingrained in there as well.
It has been. It is. My mom taught me that from a young early age too. But when you respect someone, you get that back. And that's with people younger than you, people in a higher position, older people, strangers. You respect them and typically you'll get that back.
So following that, what did you decide to do following your military service? I know you mentioned like some of your buddies had some startups, things like that, but like, what are you doing nowadays following your military service?
So when I got out, I became a bodyguard and a bounty hunter when I lived with my friend out in Las Vegas. And that was fun. I did that for a couple of years. When I moved back, I was a truck driver. I went over to Brazil and kind of took a long vacation. And when I came back, my girlfriend at the time, she got pregnant. So I was about 30 years old then. And that's when my life really kind of planted roots. We decided to get married. I was looking for a job that was more long-term, that I could grow within the company and learn a trade and basically provide for my family. So right now, I do work in our family business and where I do facilities management. And then about 7 months ago, I opened up my own company, Ellenbecker Home Maintenance and Concierge Group. So out here in Lake Country, I'm just helping people that need their house work done and they possibly just don't have the time to do it.
And so from our previous meetings, you also mentioned you help veterans a lot nowadays too. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I have an organization called United Veterans Group. And what we did out here in Lake Country is I would invite organizations, nonprofits to our company, and then the community would come in and they would basically just listen and learn. So if I had Guitar for Vets on there, we would bring 10 guitars, and then there would be an hour or 2 hour session of learning guitar, or fly tying, We also had people from the VA come in talking about benefits. Our attendance was a little bit low, so I kind of changed the format. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to the nonprofit veterans organizations, such as Center for Veterans Issue, which is the largest based organization here in Wisconsin. And they deal with a lot of veterans and transitional housing. Over at the National Soldiers Home, we're also the main operator for that, operations coordinator for that. This is where veterans that can come in that do not have a place to live and they don't have a job. What we do is we help that transition. So we give them a place to live for their family and themselves. And then if they need training, we'll give them the best training that we can, and then also help find a job for them to be able to provide for themselves.
So I'm curious, why is it, like, what's motivating you to help veterans in need? Is it from previous experience in the military, or just in general, what's motivating you?
It has. With the previous military experience that I have, I'm on the low scale of everyone. I didn't see combat. I just was in a post, did some training, and then got out. So I don't feel guilty at all, but I do feel like I did not do as much as I wanted to do. So I'm kind of using that to help after my service. And that's what's really fulfilling for me. One of the people that people don't realize are the soldiers that might have did something dumb when they were young. If it was hit a CO or, maybe, I don't know, got in an accident or a fight or anything like that. And they got an Article 15 and they got kicked out of the military, which is called bad paper. So they still wore the uniform and they still defended this country, and they're still a veteran. But when they go to the VA, they don't get any benefits because they have bad paper. So those are one of the people that we help get benefits in CVI.
Okay. And then do you have any, like what are the main goals you're trying to accomplish with veterans in need?
So right now, obviously help them, but with United Veterans Group, there's so many veterans organizations that people just don't know that they exist. So what I'm trying to do is connect the bigger guys with the little guys, because even if a soldier goes to, if they know of a veterans organization, that might be the only one that they know, and that organization might not be able to help them. So CVI, we've actually developed an app, a phone app, and this is where people can go on there. We can find organizations that they need help with. If they need help with a lawyer or housing or food or employment. And I just want to bring awareness to everyone and connect all these organizations together so we can work as one, not 1,000.
Okay, yeah. And if you can just give the common people just a message on why they should be helping veterans, like what would you tell them?
I guess the best thing I would say is be aware. Be aware that veterans need help as well, even though, being a soldier, you might think they're tough. A lot of times they need a little bit more help than a lot of other people. When you talk to a veteran, not only say thank you for your service, but also ask them, what did you do? Or what was your day like in the military? What was your MOS? Everyone says thank you for your service, which we appreciate. But, if veterans are able to expand on that, then just hearing their story makes them feel a lot better as well. But my, I guess, biggest point that I'd like to leave with everyone is with veterans in need, have compassion and realize that they need help as well as a civilian. So when you see someone standing on the side of the road and they are a veteran, know that we're here to help people like that as well.
So what are some of the smaller things or even bigger things that any community member could participate in to help either spread awareness or just overall help veterans? Like, what can we be doing?
Spreading awareness is good, but in order to be aware, a lot of times you have to go there and learn about the nonprofit and figure out what their mission is. And if you know what their mission is, it's a lot easier to talk about. There's organizations there that can take veterans or families hunting, canoeing, and do a lot of fun stuff. There's organizations there that can help people with benefits. If a spouse dies, what to do when that happens. There's companies out there that can help with food. There's a food pantry in Pewaukee. If you're a veteran, you can go there and get help with that. But you have to keep your eyes and ears open to hear these organizations.
And so following all your veteran work, how has helping veterans overall impacted your life?
One of the newest projects that I was in was the National Soldiers Home, and that's down on the Milwaukee VA grounds. And it was an old rundown building that we spent about $22 million renovating it. So when you see it before and after, it's absolutely beautiful and amazing, and the mission that we do there. So we have families that live there, and soldiers that live there too. And working with them has actually is what moved me, because you don't realize the effect that when you're a man, you want to provide for your family. And if that man is struggling, the effect that you have on your children, your wife, it plays a role. So over at the National Soldiers Home, we help them with writing resumes, finding a job. If they have AODA appointments, we help them basically reintroduce them into society as not only a soldier, but a civilian. And when I'm a part of that, that is what really makes me happy. And it makes me realize that I can do more out of the military than what I did when I was in.
And I'm curious, so you talked about just how some of these veterans, they can be discharged for dishonorable stuff with CEOs, things like that. How do you go about finding these veterans to be able to support them?
That's the hard part. And that's why awareness is so important, because when you do see someone that is mentally struggling and they can't get help from the VA, a lot of times that's when they turn to suicide. And when you hear the national suicide account, they usually don't factor in those people. So it's actually higher than what people actually hear. So awareness is the biggest part, but we typically find out from word of mouth. People will call us and talk to us and say, hey, we have this individual, and then we'll reach out to them and we'll try to work with their family and themselves.
Okay. So one more question here is, how do you plan to continue passing forward all the lessons you've learned from both your military experience and also your veteran experience? How do you plan to continue those and then also pass them on?
For events like today, I hope that I resonated a little bit with you, not only to be, to strive to be a better person, a better community leader. If you do go in the military, be, the best, not just the best person, but the best soldier you can be for yourself and for your fellow soldiers, because it's kind of like, high school. You have strong people and weak people, but you need someone in between to be able to kind of balance it out. My son, I try to teach him my life lessons with, keeping your room clean. If you start something, finish it, be honest. And then my work with my nonprofit veterans organizations, I just want to be able to help and assist the people that run it, and then also help the users as well. So if there's someone that wants to learn guitar, a lot of times I'll go out and I'll try to find a guitar for them to use and someone to teach them. So I hope every time I'm successful with doing that, it just resonates with that person to help someone else. So kind of pay it forward.
Okay.
the more people I help, the better chance I get for everything that I've learned to be instilled in other people.
And with all this work too, is there anything you feel like you could be doing better at?
Time, I wish I had more time to be able to spend with it. I know when I'm able to retire, I'll be able to pass the word a little bit better because I only have a few hours that I can kind of spend a week on bringing awareness to other people in the veterans world. So I guess time. I wish I had more time.
Understandable. All right, so I have reached the end of my question list. So in closing, this has been an interview of Jeff Ellenbecker regarding his service during 1997 to 1999. My name is Bryce Denzine. The time is 10:55. Thank you for agreeing to this interview, and most importantly, thank you for all your service.
And my pleasure. Thank you, and it was always nice speaking with you, Bryce.
Yeah, for sure. Great conversations.